Loneliness. I don't like being in my own company. That's what we're looking into. From my own experience, I live alone these days, and I'm aware that there are times you have a different feeling of mood to when I had flatmates. And when you can come home at the end of the day and you aren't around other people, you can feel you can literally feel the kind of the energy slump.
Yeah.
And if you're not proactive about it, you kind of get a cabin fever where you kind of just almost kind of have to drag yourself out of the house. And loneliness as we know it is kind of endemic, but it's quite a difficult label.
Yeah.
To say, it's quite a weird thing in this day and age to put your hand up and say, actually, I'm a bit lonely. It sort of feel like a loser or a failure.
Yeah, there's a lot of shame, isn't there, attached to loneliness? And loneliness is a feeling it's a negative feeling, isn't it? It's undesirable. We don't want to feel lonely. Solitude is when you are alone. Solitude itself is actually like a really positive thing. We need to spend more time in quiet and stillness. It's like the antidote to modern life, but it's that loneliness, it's that sense of like that heaviness, it's like isolating. It's pain in there, right?
Yeah, but I guess it sort of feels fundamentally unnatural we're pack animals.
Yeah.
We've had extended families from most of history or living on top of each other. It sort of feels like a really unnatural way of living to be an isolated human shut away in your own dwelling.
Yeah, but we are so overstimulated. We rarely have space. Like we rarely have time alone that isn't filled with something.
So you're talking about the positivity
So I am, but when that solitude feels lonely, we need to start thinking about what is getting squeezed out of normal life. Often what that loneliness is, it's a culmination of the uncomfortable feelings or like the sadness or the grief or the anger or the frustration or all of those feelings that we just do not have time to process because we fill all the gaps in life with scrolling, with noise, with music, do you know what I mean? There is no space to process. And I think maybe historically, as you say, people were living together and living on top of each other, they will have had moments of quiet, moments of stillness.
So there's good solitude, which is, and I wonder how much you get with 3 kids.
Yeah. I get up early. Yeah. I started getting up at an hour before them to have that time, and I think there's a good place for kind of mindfulness apps. So if you find it really hard to be alone, to ease yourself into it with something guided, so it's stillness, but it's guided stillness, but working to a place where you are giving yourself somehow time in your day and your week to feel. Like I think that's often why loneliness can be so hard, is because we don't allow ourselves to feel and process some of the more difficult feelings.
So I take the positive. We have this need to not be distracted or scrolling or engaged in tech or other people, and it's the going for a walk on your own, kind of clearing your head, thinking about things, just letting those thoughts bubble up. But then conversely, a lot of people live alone, or you might be living in a city where you didn't grow up, or a country you didn't grow up, and you reach an age where it's hard to make friends, and you have this kind of negative loneliness where you're going home and you're closing the door, and you're on your own, and that feels like it can kind of drain the energy and the joy out of life, and it can, it's a bit like a depression. It can make it hard to want to go out and see people.
Yeah, so it becomes a cycle.
So what would the techniques be to kind of break out of that sort of more negative loneliness?
So there are some of us that need more solitude, and there are some of us that actually use that kind of that time away as a way of just kind of retreating from the world, and it becomes quite habitual and unhelpful and unhealthy.
But I think it can just be a product of life. If you work long hours and you're single and you don't have housemates, and your friends might be in a different stage of life or a different city.
It's intimacy. It's the intimacy that's lacking, isn't it? It's the connection. It's the human connection.
Yeah.
And I think we're so over-connected in so many ways. And you could go out and do your shopping and be around a lot of people and not speak to a single person. You could use automated machines and not actually have that intimacy of connection with a single person. And that, our culture is so kind of computerized now. The generations that used to kind of have their little conversations when they went to draw out their pension, now those would be the kind of the life, those connections, those kind of life connections that they're probably not getting anymore. They're not as easy to get. So it's about having to be proactive in trying to introduce them.
So is it about saying, actually, it might well be that you're the sort of person, and most people probably are, where too much time alone isn't good for you.
Yes.
A bit of solitude,
yeah,
fine, great, lovely. When it tips into isolation, not good.
Yeah.
Recognise it's a condition. As you would say, name it. Don't be ashamed by it. But proactively plan. So you're not just slumping home at the end of the day. You're putting things in your diary which are going to make you social. That you're going to do this on a Monday, this on a Tuesday.
Yeah, commit to things. Drop Wednesday, someone a message and say, let's chat Wednesday night. I'll call you after dinner at 8. How often do we actually have those conversations anymore? We're so overly connected, but we're
no idea.
We're lacking. We're lacking intimacy, and this is a cultural challenge. We've never felt so connected. We're having conversations, without actually talking the whole time. But what is missing is that intimacy, and I think with loneliness, what is missing is intimacy. But also what is happening is suddenly we're finding the space where all of the feelings that we're not processing at other times in our lives because we're so fast and so full are asking for space.
Funny how we both bring I've noticed we both bring our own baggage to the table here.
Yeah.
I'm pushing the narrative of it's so unhealthy and unnatural and horrible sometimes to just be on your own, as someone who lives on their own and doesn't have housemates anymore and can overwork and not. I don't plan enough ahead. I really ought to plan ahead, so I'm going to see friends more and more. Whereas you're kind of craving the solitude because you're married
I'm having
and
to
you've
make
got 3
space
kids.
for space.
Yeah,
I'm having to manufacture it.
Tell me your sound analogy.
So I was thinking on the train this morning how, imagine a big glass jar and you're pouring in some big pebbles, and around there's going to be space, there's going to be air. Yeah, that's how it should be. That space to process, that space to feel, it's pauses.
And the big pebble might be family, it might be work, it might be health, like big things in life.
Yeah, the chunks.
Worth worrying about.
Yeah, or just the things in your day that, the train journey, then you've got the, this section of work, and it's, just the chunks in our life. And then what we do is we grab a bag of sand and we tip it in there and it fills in all of those gaps. And I think those things are like the phone scrolling, the listening to stuff constantly, the need to kind of always be doing something. Like never just sitting there. I was on the train, I was looking, everyone was on their phones. Everyone. Nobody was looking out the window. Like no one was just watching the world go by. That's what we had to do a number of years ago. And those, those little interjections of space and stillness and nothingness, that's where we process stuff. And we filled it all with sand and scrolling and things. So all of that air, all of that need, that we need to make time. So all of those feelings go somewhere. So for many of us, when we stop, suddenly they all come rushing for attention. In the moments before you go to sleep, in the times where you wake up at night and everyone else is asleep, and suddenly you might find it hard to get back to sleep because you're thinking about things and overthinking and feeling, and we need space.
Interesting. You've really pushed your paradigm.
I have.
You need space, and I need to socially.
We need to know what that loneliness means for us, and what the difference for us is between solitude and. If it feels lonely, why does it feel lonely? What do we need? Is it intimacy? Is it, to feel? Yeah.
And then a whole other subject, which is feeling lonely when you're in a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel lonely in a room full of people that you know. And again, it's probably it's that intimacy, it's that connection, isn't it? you know, that's probably what's missing.
Save that for another day.
Yeah.
So basically, I need to, you can move into my flat a couple of days a week.
We just do.
I'll take your kids a couple of days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fine. Life
Good
swap.
luck with that.
Oh.